I love that bitch. Recording in progress.
Right. So
Like,
professional.
right? Something I've never fully been. Anyway,
Right.
welcome back, friend.
Thank
Friend
you
of
for
the
having me.
podcast, friend of the YouTube channel.
Special guest.
Right. Well, are you a guest at this point? At this point, it's come in, kick off your shoes, go look in the fridge, see if you want a little nosh. You live here.
Yeah. And I love a little nosh, so I'm
But
happy to be here.
the whole concept of girl dinner is just based upon a little nosh.
Yeah. I just need a little snack.
It's just a little nosh. Okay,
Just a little
friend.
something.
Reintroduce yourself to the audience. Tell them who you are, what you do, and why.
So I am Courtney, a variety streamer, writer, I guess now content creator. Good Lord. And AKA none of my friends watch anime. The why. I don't want to work anymore. So I figured I could use my talents in other ways. It's taken a long time. I fought the content creator thing for some years,
And
but
you,
I finally leaned into it. But I talk about anime, um, all of things relationships, just really anything. I play video games, all that kind of stuff. So if you're into like nerdy things like true crime, anime, history, random facts that you really don't need to know about, come see me. Come holla at me.
also fashion. You know we're fashion.
Fashion too.
Yeah, we're fashion girls, but lowercase f, lowercase g. We're not like part of the establishment fashion girls. We're like studied, work
Hmm.
professionally, fans
Hmm.
of.
Right. That's why I never like I think that's why I don't include it anymore in like my bio because it's more like funsies now, right? Like it's never really it is like you said the study. It's like I like the intricacies
I feel like
of the industry itself.
the cultural
Yes,
context.
exactly.
It's really,
Yeah.
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 Okay, so I called Courtney here virtually because last time you were in New York, I was sick as fuck, and I'm very sad we didn't get to.
I know. But it's okay. I feel like I'm going to be there more often just with the nonprofit that I work with. So we got other times, girl. We got other times. But this was the first time that I stayed in Brooklyn the entire time. So that was what was like, really? It was a couple of
Wait,
y'all.
did you like
I
it or not?
Oh, of course. No, no, of course. But I'm just saying, like, I never leave Manhattan typically. And so all of my friends that were in Brooklyn, I'm like, okay, everybody's sick, everybody working, but I'm finally in y'all's borough. Like, what's going on?
It felt like a setup. It
It
was an
felt, yeah.
inconvenient setup. So I called Courtney here virtually because we need to discuss some things as single Black females. And I don't even
Hmm.
like the word females unless it's like for grammatical purposes.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Let's pull over right here. I had to explain to one of my guy friends because we were just like, well, saying woman in certain instances does sound clunky. Like to say, I wish there were more woman judges. That doesn't really make sense. In that
Right.
instance, it makes more sense to say there should be more
Female.
female judges. There should be more female led, whatever, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Anyway, I feel like as single Black women in our 30s, we need to be we need to more publicly have some of the conversations that we've been having like in our iMessages, and like Courtney and I throughout the day are having several different conversations across several different apps. And I feel like this is one that we needed to bring to light because I don't know. And I'm thankful that there are women speaking to the experience of being single. One of my really good friends, Shani Silver, makes amazing
Hmm.
content about reframing what it means to be single and embracing that part of your life, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like everything hits a little bit different when you're Black. Um,
Hmm.
and there is a content creator on TikTok. Her name is, give me a second, I had it. Kelso's Corner. She
Hmm.
posted a really thoughtful, I don't know if I can like play her video.
Trust me when I say this. I know where the girls are coming from when they say to decenter men, and that men fuck corpses, and that you shouldn't put any value into what men think of you or how they treat you because they're dog shit most of the time. Okay? I get that and I understand it. The problem I have is as a straight heterosexual woman who's attracted to straight heterosexual men and would like to experience a romantic heterosexual relationship with a man but has never had the opportunity to do so, it makes it hard to really accomplish that.
Cool.
But basically she was saying something that you and I both say, and I very openly identify as a feminist. I don't think that you take on the label of feminist, but more so just live the life of one, which is fine. Um, there is something to be said about having standards of the way that you would like to be treated and the way that you would like for men to perform manhood or masculinity, speaking heteronormatively, while also desiring partnership with men. And I think that we're at a place where we are really critical of the way men are harmful to us in this world, and particularly the men who look like us, the way that they treat us. And we want to hold them accountable for the ways in which they're lacking or not evolving when it comes to mental, emotional, spiritual wellness.
Mhm.
That combined with also wanting to be in partnership with a straight black man creates some fucking difficulties. And this creator that I mentioned, she's a white woman. She's plus size, and she's saying that like it's really difficult to not center men, which we always talk about not centering men, just for your own mental well-being, to not center men, to not put too much value in their thoughts and opinions, and also want partnership with them. That is
Mhm.
incredibly difficult, and it's a difficult space to be in. And let me start by asking this, because I don't think I actually know this. How long have you been single?
Ooh. Um,
Because I
so
don't
we're
know for
so we're
myself.
talking like single, not having a partner, not dating, but like just like considered yourself single.
How long have you considered yourself single?
Okay, so I moved to Miami in 2015. So probably like 6 years, I guess. Eight. Well, no, wait. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 8 years now. 8 years.
I have considered myself single for well over a decade.
Yeah.
Like
Which
there,
honestly isn't like we're in our mid 30s. Well, I guess now mid upper 30s or whatever. So like that's not unheard of because it's like you would have been in your 20s,
right,
your late 20s.
right.
So yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about your single life?
My single life has been in waves. I would say. So like, I went through that phase of like feeling like, whew, like I feel free. Then I went into kind of like I don't want to say loneliness, but felt like a little bit of some emptiness where it was like I really desire someone else, no matter how that person comes to me. Then I kind of dipped down into like, I realized that I was attracted to men, but I didn't like them. So I went into that. And then, trying to navigate through that, I've come back up to where I can tolerate um men, but to your point earlier, it's like how do I get that balance of the desirability, but like also having the standard that I want to with men. And then throughout those years, I would say like for the past 4 or 5 years, I've gotten to a place where um I don't mind being single, but I also am like starting to become more open to partnership and wanting to know what that looks like. But I'm also like very comfortable with myself right now. So I'm kind of like in this like limbo area where if it's like if it happens, it happens. If not, I'm still quite happy with myself. Yeah, I would
I
say.
want to get back to the limbo. I
Hmm.
think right now I'm in a space of difficulty with it because it does come in waves. You have these
Right.
moments where you're like, "Oh my god, I'm so free. I could literally do whatever I want to with my life
Hmm.
pending the constraints of capitalism." Right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
um I think with the different levels of grief that I've encountered the past year plus,
Hmm.
that made me desire partnership in a way that I was not really prepared for. Like that came out of nowhere. For a
Mm,
long time, I was very content to be single because you and I discussed that being in that space together of I really desire partnership with a man, but I don't think I really like men. I don't like the way men have made me feel. I don't like that um when I'm out, men tend to make me feel unsafe. I don't
mhm,
really enjoy being in the presence of very many men. And I was just like,
mhm,
well, this isn't going to work. So you recommended that I read The Will to Change, the Bell Hooks book, which really helped me also to not only rehumanize men for myself, and to extend compassion and grace to men, but also kind of helped me to evolve a bit as a feminist to understand that feminism really is for everyone and that like
mhm.
patriarchy is also, if not more so, harmful to men because
Yep.
it dehumanizes them in a way that I don't think they are aware of because they've like pledged, whether they know it or not, they have pledged fealty to patriarchy so much that they can't see that they're being harmed by it. But
Mhm,
from there, incurring or enduring a huge loss like the one that I experienced and seeing that all the people around me got to cope with that grief together, like with a partner, and I had to go home and cope with mine alone. I was like,
mm,
oh, this is why. Like this is a
mhm,
part of like one of the pros of being in partnership is when life starts lifing, you have someone to kind of hold your hand through it. And so I have been just in a space recently of like, I really do desire partnership, but I'm not seeing anyone eligible. I'm not seeing people who are evolved enough. And when I look back over, before I even started identifying as a feminist or studying that or realizing that that is a huge part of my value system, right? I kept running into this thing where guys would always say something to the extent of, "You're a beautiful girl, you're cool, but like all this extra shit, like you need to let that go." And the extra shit was feminism, was
you? Yeah.
yeah, you know? And it's just like, well, sweetie, I don't think that you realize that you don't like me. You might like how I make you feel, but you don't like me.
Right. Yep.
And if I can accept that, I think you need to accept that. And then sitting with, oh my God, I don't know that I've ever been with anyone who actually liked me. That's really
Mm,
difficult. You know what I mean? And so
mhm,
it's like, what
mhm.
exactly are we supposed to do with desiring partnership from men and there being men who don't seem to really desire women like me? I don't know what
Right.
I'm supposed to do with that. And it's like a dark
So
space to be in.
100 and what sis said in the video is she's like, you know, and then what happens if I take away if she lost weight, right? If she lost like 100 plus pounds and someone would finally look at her in a certain kind of way, but she's still the same person. Like she still has the same characteristics of herself there. And so it's like, what why do I need to strip away the things about me to make you feel more comfortable? And it's also like, whenever somebody says that I'm intimidating, I'm always just like, but you're intimidated by me. I'm not doing anything that is necessarily intimidating. I think you're just intimidated by me. And to your point, it's sort of off topic, but the same topic with your video the other day when you were talking about like being more approachable or like men finding women more approachable when they are kind of like dressed down. That's the thing is it's like you can't decide that I'm like digestible in a certain way that is not me 24/7. It's not possible. Which is what I said, like I desired men physically, but did not like them. And that was when I realized that I was doing the things that they do, right? Like I was viewing men the way that they typically view women. And so I would even say like not even just humanizing your desired partner, but like even just ourselves, right? Like, how do you like yourself? Because like sis talks about self-love in the video and how it's like shoved down our throats and everybody's always just like love yourself and love yourself. But it's more so like you could love yourself all day, but do you actually like yourself? And I think that that also plays a big role with how we can view others through our own selves, like through our own lens.
Well, I also do feel though that there is no substitute. I think that different kinds of I think that all there's a lot of different kinds of love, and I don't think that one can substitute for the other. I
Right.
don't think that there is anyone in the world that can love me the way my mom loves me. Nobody
Mhm.
can love me the way my brother loves me. Nobody can love me the way my chosen siblings love me. Nobody can love me the way I love myself. There
Mhm.
is no substitute for self love, just like there's no substitute for romantic love. And I think that it's a very specific desire. And I don't think that you can self love yourself out of desiring partnership with someone else.
Absolutely
It's
not.
just, and Shani and I talk about this all the time where I'm like, girl, I'm legit having a hard day, like being single.
Yeah.
Today is
Yeah.
hard. Like today I do wish that like I had somebody to like do New York with. I think New York is such a fun
It's
place
hard.
to be in a relationship. Like
Mhm.
there's so much to do. And then even when you have friends in the city, it's such a to do to get together to do things. And it seems like it would be so fun to have like a built-in person to like, hey, I want to go see this fashion exhibit at
Right.
Brooklyn Museum. Like, let's go and like and it's like you just wake up some days and you're like, I do wish that I had someone. And no
Mhm.
amount of because I have fought really hard in therapy for almost 10 years to know who I am, to like who I am, and to like
Mhm.
who I am even in the face of adversity about who I am, right?
Mhm.
And that's not to say that that's not an ongoing journey. I think loving yourself when you get so many messages from outside of yourself of why you shouldn't, right? That's an ongoing thing. But I said that to say, I know that I like and love myself. I enjoy my own company a whole lot. I love living alone a whole lot,
Mhm.
a whole lot. But I also am in a space where I really do desire partnership. And
Yeah.
I just don't think that one is going to compensate for the other. I don't think that getting with a loving, healthy partner is going to make me love myself more or less.
Mm. I also think it's easy to feel lonely in New York too. Like right before I left and went to Miami, I was very lonely. And it was also the time that my partner and I had broken up. And we had lived together for like 3.5 years. So I feel like New York is one of those places where it's easy to feel how single you are. Do you know what I mean? Like it
Yes,
sometimes can be a bit overbearing.
I think
I
people think that because it's such a big, like a densely populated place that like how can you ever feel alone? It's incredibly easy to feel because everybody is very.
very self-focused, very centered, self-centered. I think I have like a different I have a different view of being single though. Like I don't think that I've experienced the sadness of desiring partnership um in the past like 5 years. Um
Sure.
well ugh, I don't really know um how or why, to be honest with you. Um, I do think that it's because when I moved from New York to Miami, the dating was terrible. And it also was very difficult for Black women. So it was also when I started to realize that dating was starting to go downhill. Like men were inviting themselves to my home for me to cook for them as an invite to a date. Um, I would also have like guys ask me for my number, ask to hang out with me, pick the day and the time, and then like hit me the day before and be like, "Oh, I have to reschedule, blah blah blah," and then don't reschedule.
Oh my God, do you remember as an aside when I got stood up on Valentine's Day? Like, babe, you approached me, you proposed this date, you could have left me alone.
You could have
You
left me
could have left
alone.
me alone. You could let, you could left me alone. Yeah.
And like I just and then like, my friends would be like, go on Tinder, go on Hinge. Like, they were like, try the apps, right? And so I would try the apps and I would delete them immediately.
Sister, okay, so if people don't follow me on Instagram, I tried. So two of my quote unquote best friends, I don't really like that terminology because it's like best of
Yeah, it's
friends.
weird.
People are just
Right.
in my life.
Friends.
Love them. Friends, love you. And they were like, we're gonna creative direct a dating profile for you. Like we'll pick the pictures, we'll da 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 da. Because they've both, it's a straight man and a straight woman. They both have actually gotten dates from the apps, and I never have. I lasted 20 hours. It was fucking awful. And I can say to your point that after doing that, I was like, oh, I feel really good about not only being single, but not actively dating. If this is at least a microcosm of what's out there. It's so funny to me that a lot of our viral videos have been us commenting on this like state of things, where I was saying that being on the apps just for those like 20 hours, if that, I realized that men are not socialized to be desirable. And most people agreed with me. And there were those few, people like, oh my God, the lady who accused me of wearing a wig. And I was like, what a compliment. Thank you so much. You find my hair so perfect that it can't possibly be real. Oh my
It
God.
can't possibly be mine.
And then I loved too um your video recently um about in response to a response saying that you feel like you're everybody's type. And I love that you you are one of my friends who has like an incredible amount of confidence, and you know that I aspire to that all the time. I'm like, bitch, what would Courtney do? But I think that your confidence level and also having tried makes
Mhm.
it like, you know what, I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah.
'Cause after that, I was like, baby, I ain't never been more happy to have a dry phone and a dry bed in my life.
Not a dry bed. Listen, and it ends up being, and like when I went to Bali, when I was in Bali for that stint, I also tried to get on the apps because I was also like I wasn't lonely, but I was alone, right? So my homegirl and her husband live there, but they're married, right? And they've been traveling and have been alone together for like over a decade. And so sometimes I would feel like I was infringing upon their space because like they have a whole like I was in their house. I stayed with them for like a couple of weeks and I was in their office or like around their office like also working, and they just have like a whole kind of, I can't even describe it, but it's like their own language, their own synchronicity. And
Can
so
we
it
pull
felt
up
like,
her here a little bit?
yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on this. Something that I've been journaling about and talking about with my therapist. And I don't even know where I ended on it with my therapist, but whatever. There is a specific kind of grief for me that
Mhm.
comes from being the only single friend in a larger group,
Mm.
or even like if I look at my different friend groups across the board, I'm the single one. And there's a specific kind of grief that I have experienced with the way that we prioritize romantic relationships, and knowing
Mm.
that every time a close friend of mine got married and or had a baby, that I would be deprioritized more in their life. When for me,
Mm.
just like the girl was saying in the video, I fill my life with rich relationships that fortify me, and I have a very strong community and resources and all of the things. But for me, those people can still take up a lot of space for me because I have the space, I have the capacity.
Right. Right.
And the fact that I get bumped down, and not saying that it's wrong, it's just the course of life, but that I
Hmm.
get bumped down because, of course, I'm not going to matter to you as much as or more than your husband. That would be weird.
Right.
Or,
Right.
or your kid. That would be weird. In addition to the thousands of other things that we have going on.
Going on.
And
Mhm.
one of my sisters is about to have her first baby now, and I'm so beyond excited for her because her fertility journey was like a real journey,
Mhm.
you know. More
Mhm.
happy I could not be, but I'm also bracing myself for knowing that my sister's going to be less available to me. That
Mhm.
relationship is going to change.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that is a specific kind of grief compounded upon having
Mhm.
actually physically lost people. It's a really interesting place to be in. And I'm just curious if, from that perspective of especially a happily married couple, they do live in their own world and you're just kind of like there.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's what I felt like, that I was just there, and that I felt like I was, and I know I wasn't, right? Like, they weren't saying anything to me, like, I hadn't seen my friend in so long, and she didn't have, like, girlfriends there, so we were just excited to be around each other, period. But it was like, I could tell that it was like, "Oh, they've got their own groove going, like, they've got their own thing," and I'm also used to living alone, right? Like, I like living alone. So that was when I decided, to get my own space. But it was just like, I also noticed this with a lot of my friends aren't married, actually. So they're in partnership, but they're not married. And so I don't feel like I lose that space with them. So, like a Kia, for example, like Kia and Jason have been together forever, and they are happy. They invite me to come places with them. I've taken trips with them, and things like that. But I also still feel like I get time, Kia's time equally. I still get that, like, relationship with her equally, as opposed to my friends who are actually married or have children. And so I also think it depends on if you live with your partner, because my friends that live separately from their partners, we don't skip a beat, right? Like, it's like we're talking until whenever, we text until whenever. And I remember, like, he and I would we text all times of the night, right? And so when I was living with my partner, he would always be wondering who I was texting, because it was like 12 o'clock at night or whatever, and I'm in the bed and you could see the light on my phone. He's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm talking to Kia," right? Like, so I think it depends on the dynamic of the relationship. Like, to your point, like, one of my homegirls has a partner and has a kid, and we're not as close as we used to be. And that happens when you have a family, right? And so I think it really just depends on, if your friend also has, like, a child, you know what I mean? Or, like, I think it just depends on the circumstances of the
Yeah.
relationship. But I totally agree. And there's times even, and I know we're gonna talk about it later, but there's times even when, like, I'm having conversations with my girlfriends, about dating outside of my race, right? Like, dating non-black men. And the conversation is always, "Oh, well, there's, like, plenty of black men out there and blah blah blah."
Oh
And then they
no, I
start
don't get
naming
that.
them.
I
Wait,
don't
but
get that.
then they start naming them, and it's like their partners, or like my brother. And I'm like, "Okay, well, I can't date these people." Right? Like, you're naming people who I cannot be with. So, like,
So I can say that I have a lot of support for dating outside of
Mm,
our race. And, you know, just, for posterity, I think that I can partner with a non Black person of color, but I don't know if I can partner with a white man. I
mhm,
don't know if, I don't know about that one. I think that there's so much, not even nuance, just like full on differences that I just don't know that I want to even go. I don't, and here's what, I don't know that I could even partner with a Black man that is very far away or very far up or down the
100%.
spectrum of the Black experience.
100,
Like,
100%.
you know what I mean? From
100%.
Carlton
Mhm.
Banks to Sexy Red, there is a spectrum of Black experience, Black identity, and it's nuanced. It's not linear. It's Jeremy
Mhm.
Bentley, it's all
Mhm.
over the place. But I am a very culturally Black American person, and I
Mhm.
don't see myself being able to partner with someone who is markedly like worlds apart. Not that we have to be the same person or from the same place, but I think that navigating the world in certain way from certain perspectives. It gives you these certain kinds of values, and I
Mhm.
just don't know that mine would align with a white man. I'd be curious to see, but I can say that for my friends who still make me a priority, don't get me wrong, like it's not like
Mhm.
everybody was like, girl,
Oh,
I'm busy
100.
now, I don't need you no more. Now let me be
It's
clear.
just what happens when you have I mean, it's literally what happens.
Let me be clear. I did have a bitch hit me with, I just care about being a wife and a mother now. So, and I said, baby, heard you. And fast forward, singing a different tune, but that's another conversation
Right.
for another day. But,
Eek.
you know, for the friends who like know that I want partnership and know how difficult it is for Black women out here, super on
Period.
board with, oh, I hope that
You
for
do what
you.
you gotta do.
Because we
Right.
can't, we have to be honest about, at least on social media, we are seeing a lot of Black women being absolutely pampered by non-Black men, and it's like, oh, I would like to try it.
I would like to see it.
I would like to give it a go.
I would like to see it.
So I do feel open. That's what I
Mhm.
can say. One of the major pros of being single at this age, I feel more open to partnership looking like what I want it to look like as opposed to
100.
getting a mold. And I'm very
100.
grateful for that because now we're in the era of our lives where people are starting to get divorced. And
Yeah.
a part of that is I started evolving in a way that this person wasn't. And it just, I
Yeah.
have already begun my evolution. Like I'm already on that journey. And not that you and your partner have to be in the same place, but if you not
My
on an upward
my friend talks
trajectory.
Yeah, my friend that I was mentioning that's married and living abroad, like she always has said, I don't give people marriage advice or relationship advice because everybody's relationship is different. But the one thing that she said to me that has stuck with me is that you can't grow with your partner in the same way. So like, there's always this conversation of like you have to grow with your partner, you have to like evolve with your partner and blah blah blah. Sure, but you guys are going to evolve separately, right? And then at that point, what are you going to do with that separation? How are you going to get back to being together? That's the part of growing together that we need to focus on. And I don't think that people talk about that enough.
Especially when a child comes into it, because
That
we
too.
are
Yeah.
socialized to be different people when it comes to being a parent. Women have to physically transform to be
Hmm.
parents.
Hmm.
And the bar, that's what I tell people all the time. I want to be a father. I don't really want to be a mom because the
The bar
standard
is,
for being a good mom way too high. As a dad, if you
bro.
just show up most times, he's an
I
amazing.
took my kid to the I took my kid to the park. I'm a good dad. You did some I mean, what? That's Ain't you supposed to do that? Like, I don't know. Anyway,
We're not
another
giving,
conversation for another
you know,
day.
you know. Um, and so I said that to say that's one of the things that I'm grateful for, that I've started therapy and I've had the experience of, and I continue to have the experience of knowing who I am and what I desire in life. I'm glad to have had the time
Mhm.
to learn myself,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
especially in relation to the rest of the world, especially as a Black woman. It's just really important for us to know who we are and have a solid relationship with ourselves. So I'm
And I think that
incredibly grateful.
that is the main reason why. I guess that's the reason why and how for me that I've been able to like not that I can confidently say that I have not had that experience where I'm experiencing the loneliness or the sadness of being single. Because I've had back to what I was saying, sorry, but I've had the experience of living alone, secluded, right? Like I actually lived in the jungle, um, alone on a hill, like in a villa by myself, right? And being around people who, yeah, they speak English, but they don't look like me, right? Like we might be the same color, but we're not the same people. And so just like navigating and having to, and like my first 2 weeks in Bali were really rough, in terms of transition and in just like coming to the realization of what I was doing, right? Like buying a one-way ticket, coming to a country I'd never been to, like doing those different things. But then like you said, you I kind of had to like snap into like me, right? Like, okay, bitch, but this is what you wanted to do. What did you come here for? What did you do this for? And it was that. It was just trying to really discover, I wasn't on medication yet. And still just coming out of like, suicidal ideologies and trying to navigate like what did it feel like to live? What did it look like to live? And so I think now I've just gotten to a space where I'm like, okay, I'm really enjoying me, and not necessarily just like being alone with me or spending time with me, but just as a human being, like as a soul, as a creature, right? And it takes a while to get into that space, I would say. Personally, it took me a little bit.
It took me moving
Um,
to New York. Like, you have the experience
yeah.
moving to Bali. I had that experience when I moved to New York, especially when I was in living with my line sister, and I was actually like living alone. And I was like, oh, it's just me. And I think a lot about the Dolly Parton interview with Barbara Walters, where like Dolly Parton is one of my personal heroes because she's
Right.
a ridiculous person on the front end, but there's so much depth and
To her period.
like, oh my God, like there's so
Yeah.
much there. And I watched her documentary.
First of all, the fact that I've never seen your man, sis, never seen her husband once. Maybe once
Iconic,
in like a blurry photograph.
iconic, because he
Live
knows
for it.
his place. I'm just kidding. Or
I'm just
not.
kidding. Or not. I don't know.
But I love, after watching her documentary, watching Tina Turner's documentary, watching Jane
Mm,
Fonda's documentary,
mm,
I was like, there's something here. There's something here that is like really resonating with me. And when I saw that interview where Barbara Walters was basically trying Dolly, where she was just like, but you know you look crazy, right? And like, you're smart. You don't have to do all this drag that you do. She didn't call it drag, but like the clothes
yeah.
and the
Right.
wig,
Right. No. No.
whatever.
Yeah.
And Dolly was like, well, for one thing, I have an incredible sense of humor. So I'm in on the joke that people think that they created. I'm in on that joke. And
Mhm.
Dolly said, I know who I am. And I really like the kind of person that I am. So I can afford to play around with wigs and makeup and
Yep.
clothes because
Yep.
I know who I am and I
Right.
like myself. And
Mhm.
I when she said that, I was like, "Oh, that's it. That's oh, that feels good," because
Mhm.
I think that you can receive a lot of messages about who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to feel about all these different things. And you and I talk about this all the time, that we can afford to make jokes at our expense. We can afford to be like, "Oh, let me look. Let's see what these Korean men get for. Like, what's up?" Because we know and like and enjoy ourselves, and we're also very not only self-aware but aware of what the
Mhm.
world is around us. So I
Mhm.
can afford to live a life different from my friends that I grew up.
People also don't critically think. And I don't think that people understand how much that plays a part into just viewing the world, period, right? Or like how you can view yourself or see yourself just in moving spaces. And so if you can't think critically outside of whatever little bubble you've got going on or whatever original thought that you were taught, or if you're not willing to unlearn certain things, you're fucked. Like it's just there's no other way around that. None.
And I'm gonna tell you another thing that I feel like a lot of people are lacking is courage. Because
Mm, girl.
it's one thing to recognize, oh, there are a lot of different systems at play that I don't really want to be a part of, but in order to survive, right? Like, you can't
I
escape
must.
capitalism. We
100.
all have to like do what we have to do, right? Because we like nice things and nice
Mhm.
experiences, right? So we're all
Mhm.
just doing our best. So it's one thing to become aware, but then to also have the courage to live in alignment
Mhm.
with that awareness. And a lot
Mhm.
of people don't have the courage. Like, there are people who recognize what patriarchy is, recognize
Mhm.
how harmful it is, recognize colonialism, imperialism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, all those things, but they don't have the courage to not just roll over and take it. People who are just like, well, that's how life is. That's how the world is. And
I
it's like,
think that
well, yeah, but you
I
just gonna
think
go
that's
over
why
and
it's
take it?
difficult. You're just gonna do it. I think that that's the difficult part for me, and I talk about this with my best friend a lot. Is that a lot of cis hetero men aren't brave. And so that is the difficulty that I have, right? So like, a lot of times they're more concerned about what people around them are going to think about their partner, right? Like, the conversation of if she's a hoe or not, right? Or, whether or not you have enough money and like all this stuff. And I think it's usually for the gaze of other men, right? Like it's usually for the gaze and acceptance of other men. And so to me, the whole thing is a farce, right? Like everything is a farce. And the minute that I believe black cis hetero men come to the realization that white supremacy is the thing that is ruining us all, and tries to figure out a way to break away from that and come up with something else, is the day that relationships within our community can start to heal. And I just don't think that there's a level of bravery that they have that will set that aflame. And the reason why I think that is because they get to benefit from the patriarchy.
That's what I was gonna say.
And so it's not a lot, but they
A
do,
little bit,
right?
the little bit of crumbs that patriarchy gives to cishet black men, they don't want to trade those crumbs in to
Right.
actually align with the community of black
Right. And
men.
I feel like, the same thing happens with white privilege, right? Like white people don't want to give away that, like the privilege that they have. Like I tried to explain that to my best friend. He was saying something to me, and I was like, okay, so if you were able to get this delicious chocolate cake every single night that you cannot live without, and then one day I just tell you, no, you can't have it anymore, what would your response be? Right? Like you would have a little bit of like, no, but I've always gotten this piece of cake every single night. I love it. It's delicious. I don't gain weight from it. Like I don't have to pay for it, right? Like you just get this free thing. And so that's where that balance of like trying to understand, right? Like trying to understand what this particular person goes through as a whole, because it's like I want to date, I want to partner with someone like this. I have to now look at it from, that type of lens. And so there just is, like you mentioned, this level of fear and a lot of discourage from other people for shit to move goalposts. I just feel like there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I think it's I know for me it's just reconciling the nobody is going to be perfect and people aren't born with a downloaded understanding of the
Yep.
intersections of all these different things, and you
Hmm.
have to make these decisions for, okay, well, what are my deal breakers, what can I tolerate and what can't I tolerate. And
Hmm.
as you get older and you see that your life is progressing without a person, it becomes almost easier to hold on to those standards as like, no, these are things that I value that make my life
Hmm.
livable. Because as people who have had suicidal ideations, when you find a will to live, you find
Hmm.
things that make life livable and
Hmm.
joyous in spite of life being hard.
Yep.
You don't want to give that up. There,
Right.
like that freedom of I want to be here, you don't really want to give that up. Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think for me right now as well, it's this thing of like, not only like standards, it's like it's a boundary, because for me as a
Yes.
person who struggles with depression, that is life or death for me. Like a
Hmm.
person coming into my life and wrecking, I know we overuse it, but like disturbing my peace, that is a
Hmm.
life or death thing. If
Hmm.
you are not able to be vulnerable with yourself and compassionate with yourself and brave enough
Hmm.
to do hard things with yourself, you will destroy me.
Right.
And,
Right.
like,
Period.
not even like being dramatic. That's just like dead
Right.
ass what it is. And
Right.
for me, the stakes are too high. It's your
Yeah.
fucking life. It's
Yeah.
your fucking life.
Yeah.
It's only your life, you know.
Yeah. And you have to spend the rest of it supposedly with this like one person, right? And so I started looking at relationships in that way. Like I never really went into relationships thinking about the long term. So like it was one of those, like, if it happens, it happens, right? I'm open to whatever the case may be. Now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily want to marry this person, but I'm going into this wondering how long am I here for, a good time or a long time? Like what am I doing here? And even if it's for a good time, they still have to have these certain things, right? Because I don't want to work for dick at all. I don't want to work, period. Like, I don't even want a job. So why would I want to work to do anything with you, right? So it becomes like a whole, and I said that on that same video, where it's like you learn what you can and what you cannot put up with, mostly because you know what you're going to also be giving to someone else, and so you want that in return. And so I think that's another reason why I'm just kind of like, oh no, I'm okay, because if this person isn't going to come with this, then it's just not even, I what can I do? Like, what can I even say?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
maybe just being very adaptable to the reality
Mhm.
of things and like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, well, this is fine, you know.
Yeah. But it's like that dog meme where he's like sitting in the fire. Just, there's no fire right now. I'm just kind of like, yeah, this is all right. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is for now.
Well, I on Twitter, I use the I love the Winnie the Pooh gif because often in our homes
Hmm.
we are Winnie the Pooh in it anyway. It's either
Hmm.
a Winnie the Pooh in it or Daffy Duck in it, but
Yes.
rarely are we like fully
Fully
clothed.
clothed.
We're not giving totally spies, right?
Right.
But I love the Winnie the Pooh gif where he's just like looking at his belly
Dancing in the mirror.
in the mirror and just like how, or like when he's sitting down with his little pot of honey and he's just
Yes.
like, that's my,
Just
this is
content.
fine.
So happy.
This is fine.
Yeah.
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 Um, Sad that to say. So yeah, it's just, I think to circle back to the beginning, being a single Black woman, just it comes in waves. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's amazing and beautiful, and there's so much community to be had, to
Mhm.
contribute to experience when you have the capacity for it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then sometimes it's just like, bitch, I don't know if this is ever going to happen for me, but I know I can't control it. And I know that settling is just
It's
not
just not it. It's not it. It's
an
not it. I often wonder now, will it happen? And I remember my homegirl, like, literally saying, she was saying this like some years ago, where she was like, I think I can see you being okay with not getting married and having a kid. She was like, I can't see my other friend, our other friend, being like that. She's like, but for some reason I can see you like that. And I used to be like, well, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. And as I get older, now I'm kind of like, and I don't feel sad about it, right? Like, it's not something that's like, oh no, like I'm gonna be, because Sex in the City tries to make you feel like when you're 36 and single that it is like, but 36 now is different, but like they try to make you feel like it's so harpering, like how could you ever, like what is that gonna do? And I feel like now I've just gotten to the point where I'm probably like, I guess, in my Samantha era, where I'm just like, it is what it is. I think I will be okay with that. But I do find myself asking, like, will it happen? Like, will partnership happen for me?
Yeah, I find myself asking it because I'm, again, like I'm in the down part of the way
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where I am asking myself, like, is this ever gonna happen for me and will I be okay? Like I was just looking at one
Right.
of the journals from maybe like June and just like asking myself those questions that I'll want to remember, like when I'm, 90 and retired in the countryside in France. Um,
Right.
I want to remember asking myself these questions of, is this going to happen for me? And if it doesn't, will I be okay? Will
Mm-hmm.
God fill my life with other things? Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to believe that I'm just like meant to be,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm like that.
Right.
But those are questions that I ask myself. But what I also really struggle with, I don't like people trying to make you feel a way about being
Yeah.
single. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's a girl that I went to high school with that I couldn't believe that it's like, don't set yourself up for people to come at you. You basically are in a glass house and you provided pails of stones for people to throw at you. But that whole thing of, I think that women are pretending to be okay with being single and pretending that they don't want kids and partnership and blah blah blah. And like our one of our favorite TikTok. Look at your face. I love your reactions.
I,
One of our favorite TikTok creators. Like, well, what about it?
what
Even
about that?
what about it? Even like if women are finding ways to be not only okay with, but at peace with, well, I don't have kids because I haven't found someone that I want to go on that journey with. I don't have kids because I physically can't. I don't
Hmm.
have partnership because I have yet to meet someone that I want to go on that journey with. How do you
Right.
want us to perform singlehood in a way that doesn't make you feel bad about having multiple baby daddies?
Oh,
I'm not
well,
judging you for that because life just
but
happens.
answer. Right. But
Life
answer
just
me, riddle
happens.
me that. Right. Yeah. Because
Exactly.
life happens. Right. Like that. I'm
Exactly.
single because life happens. And that was the thing, like that. My video response was to somebody saying, because like first of all, people don't understand satire. But like my response was, like I'm not afraid of approaching men because I feel like I'm everybody's type. Right. And it's more so I say that because Beyonce said it. It's not like something that I tend to always believe, but it was, the person was like, well, if you were everybody's type, you wouldn't be single at 36. And one of the comments was from a woman that was like, why do people think that people are single because they can't find someone or that people don't find them desirable? Because honestly, like if I didn't want to be single, I wouldn't be, right?
My
But
mom has
again,
always said, "You can get married when you can't get nothing else." It's not hard to
it's
get
not
a
hard.
man because, like
No,
they said, a man will fuck a fire hydrant. Like that's not hard.
a pudding cup,
A pudding
anything,
cup, a
girl, anything.
mattress, any soft hole. Like it's not hard to. Like their standards aren't. You know,
Hmm.
if anything,
Hmm.
I feel like I haven't been chosen because I have exceeded their standard in a way that scared the shit out of them, and they were like, "Well, what is this?" But
Mm.
that's the thing. It's not that we're not desirable, because even to that creator's point about losing weight, I lost over 50 pounds and still did not feel that I was seeing what I wanted. That
Right,
didn't
100,
change. Yeah, it's
100.
like it's not that we're not desirable because anybody is desirable. There's a lid for every pot.
Hmm.
It's about
Hmm.
making a choice that I want to make.
Hmm.
And if you and I think that people say things like that to us because it strikes a chord with them that maybe
Right.
we didn't know that they had other choices. And
Very much.
you're telling on yourself, your insecurity is jumping out. Because what
Mhm.
kind of a sick bitch do you have to be to slide up in somebody else's comments and try to shake their confidence and try to like make them uncomfortable with who they are? Do you know how weird you
Right.
have to be to not only
Do you
do
know how
that, but then
miserable you have to be?
to double down?
Girl, girl. It was a mess. Just a mess. And so it's like you have to that's another thing about being a content creator is that you have to deal with like comments like that. You have to deal with people who look at social media all day. These are people who have no pictures on their profile, have absolutely no photo of themselves as their icon, right? Like these are people who are dealing with their insecurities on a 24/7 basis, who come on the internet and
And lack
spend all
bravery.
day
And
and
lack
lack
bravery.
bravery and come on the internet and watch it all day and then they finally see particularly a black woman. They see a black woman come on the space and be confident in her words, be confident in herself, and like they just want to bring that down. And I remember there being a tweet that was like, it needs to be studied. There needs to be a study out there about what it is when people see a confident black woman loving on herself, praising herself, feeling herself, and somebody trying to come in and still trying to bring them down. For what? What do you gain from that?
Because it
Period.
doesn't make you actually feel or look better to try to diminish someone else. So we can
No.
have this conversation for 6 years, for endless hours. We probably will, but we have to wrap it up. So, in summation, how do you feel about the outlook of your singlehood?
Um, I feel pretty good. I think that again, I'm just starting to get into a space where I feel open to partnership. So dating outside of my race is something that I'm thinking about. It is something that I've become more open to. Will it happen? Not too sure. Again, I'm just kind of going like, where the journey takes me. I believe we all have our stories written and it's up to us to find the words to live it. So we'll see, honey. I'm feeling pretty good though. I feel pretty good.
I feel like child, dot, dot, dot. We'll see. That's how I feel about
Mm-hmm.
my singlehood. Like,
Mm,
in
mm-hmm.
general, I'm pretty good because I can honestly, confidently say with my whole ass, I have never looked or felt better.
100.
You know,
100. Yeah.
would love to meet a man who is secure enough with himself to be okay with me feeling that way. Um,
Mhm.
Before we go, plug yourself, your streams, and all of your stuff.
Yeah. So again, Courtney, aka none of my friends watch anime. That is NOMFW, anime spelled out on all social media platforms. I stream about 3 times a week. Every Tuesday, I play Hogwarts Legacy right now. Either Wednesday or Thursday, I usually play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And then on Saturdays, I rotate between. Sometimes I watch a little anime. Every other Saturday, though, I do read smutty fan fictions out loud. So if you're into that kind of thing, drop on by. But again, I am a variety streamer, so sometimes I'll switch up what I decide to stream on random days. But I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you, friend.
Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
Of course.